Hello everybody and welcome to the Online Sociologist. I'm Ryan. In this video, we're going to wrap up the first chapter of Kurt Wolff's translated and edited text, The Sociology of Georg Simmel. So far, we've seen how Simmel defines sociology and society through abstraction, synthesis, and interaction. We also saw how Simmel argued that every science focuses on one slice of reality, and in sociology, that slice is human interaction. However, this raises another question. Once we've isolated this social thread and start studying interaction itself, what do we do with it? This is where Simmel turns to next. In this video, we'll see how he puts it all together and shows sociology not as a single project, but instead three overlapping problem areas, each of which looks at society from a different angle. But before we begin, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button for more videos and insights related to sociology. So, let's walk through each of these problem areas one by one. The first of these problem areas is what Simmel calls general sociology. You can think of this as the area in which sociology studies the expressions of interactions. It looks at how large parts of society, things like art, religion, law, or science, develop and are shaped through social relationships. Now, when we usually think of something like art, religion, law, or science, we usually think of them as having their own internal logics. Art follows different styles and techniques, while science follows their methods and observations, and law follows specific procedures and precedents. But Simmel reminds us that despite their internal logics, none exist within a vacuum. Instead, they all begin with people and with the ways that people associate. For instance, a single artist may paint a painting, but the very idea of art and the style in which that painting is created is a shared practice that comes from centuries of social refinement. It develops through countless social interactions, whether it's through people collaborating, competing, teaching, critiquing, and so on. General sociology, then, is about seeing culture itself as a social product, or, in other words, a record of how people, over generations, crystallize their interactions into institutions. The second area is what Simmel calls pure or formal sociology. And this area is what he dedicated most of his academic focus to. If general sociology studies what society creates, formal sociology studies how it is structured. It asks, what are the recurring patterns that show up whenever people interact, no matter the topic or purpose? Simmel's idea here is subtle but powerful. He wants to separate the content of social life from its form or its structure. Once you do that, you begin to notice something remarkable, which is that the same forms of association begin appearing again and again, but in very different settings. Take the example of a workplace. Every company, from a small business to a global corporation, has its own content, its mission, its products, its goals. But the underlying forms are familiar. There's hierarchy and subordination, where some people direct and others carry out. There's cooperation as employees coordinate to reach shared objectives. There's also conflict and negotiation as people push back against authority or advocate for change. We can see similar forms in a family. Parents and children often fall into structures of hierarchy and care. Decisions are negotiated, roles are distributed, conflicts arise and get resolved. The setting and purpose are different, but the social architecture is strikingly similar. And that's Simmel's insight. Beneath all the differences of daily life, social relationships follow recurring patterns: domination and subordination, cooperation and competition, inclusion and exclusion. Studying these forms apart from their content is what Simmel calls formal sociology. It's like studying the grammar of social life rather than its vocabulary. The words change, but the structure remains. Seeing those patterns help us understand how very different worlds, the office, the home, the classroom, or the state are all built from the same underlying ways of relating. The third and final area is what Simmel calls philosophical sociology. Here, he takes one more step back. Instead of asking what society produces like general sociology, or how it's structured like formal sociology, philosophical sociology asks what it all means. This area looks at the assumptions that make sociological thinking possible in the first place. What do we have to believe about human beings and their relationships before we can even begin studying society? Do we assume people are naturally self-interested or naturally cooperative? Do we think societies have an overall direction or purpose, or are they just collections of interactions with no final meaning? These are philosophical questions, not empirical ones. You can't test them with data, but they quietly shape every sociological theory that follows. They influence what we pay attention to, what we measure, and how we interpret what we find. Okay, let's take a step back and pull all of this together. General sociology looks outward. It studies how social life expresses itself through history, culture, and institutions. Formal sociology looks inward, as it studies the recurring forms of interaction that hold social life together no matter the setting. And philosophical sociology looks beneath it all. It asks what makes these forms and processes possible, and what do they ultimately mean? But for Simmel, and this is important, these problem areas aren't separate spheres competing for attention. Instead, they're three perspectives of the same reality. Each one reveals a different side of what it means to live in a world made up of relationships and interactions. And this is why I believe Simmel remains such an important figure in sociology, despite being dead for over a century. He reminds us that sociology isn't just about counting data or studying behavior. It's about understanding how the hidden forms of connection, the way we gather, organize, and relate, give shape to everything else, whether it's our culture, our institutions, or our sense of self. I want to thank you all for watching, and if you have any questions, comments, concerns, complaints, or critiques, please make sure to leave a comment below. And if you want to keep digging into Simmel or sociology in general, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.